Do you know why you should use Visual Studio as your IDE all the time for creating your programs and not journal editor at all? If you don't know, then do watch this video till the end because I am going to share the top 3 reasons why you should use Visual Studio instead of journal editor. If you are learning NXOpen for quite a few days, then by this time you already know what is journal editor and what is Visual Studio. And by this time you might have also installed Visual Studio and tried working on it. Now I am going to tell you the top 3 reasons why you should use Visual Studio instead of using journal editor for writing your code. The reason number 1, when you use the journal editor for your codes and you write something like this is a sample uh, test code. If you write something like this, then your journal editor cannot recognize that this is not the correct syntax for your code, for your program. It will simply ignore that. It will not highlight you at all. But if I write the same line into the Visual Studio, then I can see the difference. If I if I use the same line of code, same line, if I put the same line in a Visual Studio, you can see I get to see that this is an error. It highlights that text with the underline uh, uh, red line. It means that there is some error in this code. If this is going to be a comment, then I must comment it out so that it will not throw an error. But if at all I am doing some typo mistake, or if at all I am typing something by mistake, then I am not able to realize that I am typing something which is not uh, correct as per the code syntax. Then I am not able to get that stuff highlighted very easily in a journal editor. That was number 1. Now, number 2 is that when you have when you have your code ready, now you wanted to test it code, but at the time of testing this code, you wanted to stop, or you wanted to take a pause in between. In between means you wanted to stop at some line and in the middle of your code, and you wanted to see uh, the partial action being done by your code. So that is not at all possible in journal editor. You have to do that into the Visual Studio only. So how you do that in Visual Studio is you simply take your code into the Visual Studio. Of course, you have to create the project. You create that project using class library DLL template, and once you have that, you save that project, create the DLL using build solution or rebuild solution option. And once you have that DLL, let me click on rebuild solution. Once you have that DLL, you can take a pause, you can take a breakpoint, you can add a breakpoint, and then if this breakpoint means I wanted to stop at this particular point, this particular code line, so I can place these breakpoints, and when I debug this, I am going to uh, get a pause at this particular line in my code execution. So let me do that as well. I am going to attach this to a process. It is attached to a process. Now I am going to execute this DLL from NX. Once I execute the DLL from NX, you can see that my code execution has started and it has taken a pause at line number 37. This yellow color means the execution is in process, and we have taken the pause at this particular line. Now, what is this means is that the lines of code before this yellow line, all of that code is already executed, and the lines of code which is below this yellow line, this is yet to execute. So this way I can take a pause into the execution itself, and there are a lot of advantages of doing this. You wanted to review the variables, you wanted to review the values assigned to those variables and all of that stuff, uh, so that you wanted to, in short, you wanted to review your code, what's happening, how is the data flowing from one parameter to another parameter, and you want to analyze your code. So this is what you can do very well into Visual Studio. Now, number three is that now we are already into the debug mode. So what we have done, we have added breakpoint and our code has taken a pause here. It means we are already into the debug mode. Now what you can do here is that you can review the values assigned to different variables. For example, if I take this variable pt, now if I hover my cursor over this, I can see the details about this variable. I can even see what are the values of the different parameters inside this variable. The same goes for all other variables. I can even see this dir variable, and if I see anything which is below this yellow line, there is nothing here because this code is yet to execute. But the third and top, the important reason of using Visual Studio is that I can see what is being happening, what are the values being assigned to all those different variables. If I take the example of this section 1 in this case, and if I expand this, I can see the properties of these variables. Every detail I can see here, and these details are very much important for you to review your code, to fine tune your code, and if at all there are any errors, you can rectify and resolve those errors using this information that is only available in Visual Studio. So these are my top 3 reasons of using Visual Studio. To summarize, first is, of course, you don't get to see any errors, typo errors into your code in Journal Editor, but you get it in Visual Studio. Second is, you can execute it and take a pause at any of the code line that you want. And third is that you get the information about all the variables for which you already executed the code till that line. So you get the information about those variables, which is very well important for you to understand and review your code. So these are the top 3 reasons for using Visual Studio. Keep learning, keep using Visual Studio, and best of luck. Here I am introducing a course called C Sharp Essentials for NXOpen Customization and Programming. Enroll now and unlock the power of customization in NX. Don't miss out.